Welcome to the Craftsman interview. I am here with Angela Trillhaase, who is a Libertyville resident and running as a write-in candidate for the village board coming up. We are recording from the Cook Memorial Library digital studio. If you haven't come downstairs yet at the library to check out this studio, you've got to do it because it's a really cool place. They've got Macintosh huge computers, turntables. You could do podcasts down here. They've got music stuff. You can convert things to DVDs, all kinds of cool stuff. So check it out. We're going to ask you a few questions, Angela, and we'll just jump right into it. Can you describe the trustee position a little bit to the audience and kind of give us the scope of who's on, who's off, who's running, who's writing in, all that kind of stuff?
Sure. I think it's challenging to understand the village trustee position if you haven't been involved in watching a village board meeting or you're not involved in any kind of, politics. But the trustee is on the board of trustees, if you will, for a town. Most of us don't make the correlation between being on a board of trustees of a corporation and a board of trustees of a town, but that's really what your role is as a trustee, is to be part of the, governing body of the town. Okay. And so the trustee's position, along with the mayor and the staff of the village, are responsible for making sure that the village runs smoothly. And in this case, we have 3 positions are coming up for election on April 7th. Okay. And on April 7th, the town of Libertyville, and hopefully a lot of people will come out for the election because there's not a lot to force us to come out. There's not a presidential or any other big issues coming up. So we'll all be voting for 3 people to take those vacant positions. Okay. 2 people, Scott Adams and Donna Johnson, are running for re-election. They're currently in the spots. Actually, Scott was appointed, so he's running for election, but he's an incumbent because he's sitting in that position today. Okay. And Donna Johnson is running for re-election. And then they were originally the only 2 people that had put in to be candidates in that last spot would have then been appointed by the mayor. Okay. I guess I didn't realize how dyed-in-the-wool American I am, but I really thought that our democratic process should be preserved and that we should, use our right to vote. And that was why I originally put in for the write-in candidate, is I just really thought that the people of the town should elect the 3rd person. Right. Unbeknownst to me, the mayor also believed the same thing and reached out to Pete Garrity and asked him to run for election. Okay. Which he did. So at the same time, we had put in our petitions. Okay. And then after that, Tom and Bethany also put in their candidate positions, I want to say like the last day. So whatever the last day was for the deadline for write-in, that's when they decided to put in their candidacy as well. Okay. So now you have, instead of 2 people running for 3 positions, you have 6 people running for 3 positions. Okay. Does that answer your question? Yes, okay. Yes. And there's 4 potential write-in candidates, and yes. What people have to do is literally write your names in. Right. So Scott Adams and Donna Johnson's names will already be on the ballot when people get into the voting booth, and they just have to fill in the little circle. In order to vote for any of the write-in candidates, they need to write the write-in candidate's name and fill in the little circle. They have to do both parts. So it's really important to fill in the circle and put the person's name in. Got it. And to that end, because I don't have an easy name like Scott Adams or Donna Johnson, I had little cards made up so people could actually carry them in with them to the election booth and be able to spell my name correctly. But I was told that the intent is what's important. So if somebody wrote in Angela T., in all likelihood would still be counted because it didn't look like Bethany Williams and it didn't look like, Pete Garrity. Right. Right. Okay, great. So tell us a little bit about your background, personally, professionally. How long have you lived in Libertyville? Sure. Personally, been married for 30 years. My husband is a police commander in Deerfield. Oh. Our oldest daughter is a police officer in Highland Park. And she's 25, and we have a 22-year-old who is finishing her senior year of college. Nice. Everyone's employed and healthy and happy, so life is good. That is good. And we moved to Libertyville in 2007 and moved in here across from the hospital. Okay. And love Liberty. We moved to Libertyville because we really wanted to live in Libertyville. That was something my husband and I both wanted to do. We lived in Mundelein for 20 years before that, where I was on the village board. Oh, okay. In Mundelein, I was appointed by the mayor. But that's how I learned the real role of the trustee. I don't know that I really understood the role before I was in it.
Okay.
So that's another reason why I think I'd be well suited for it, but I'm sure we're going to get to that. Professionally, I've been in the information technology industry for 30 years.
Okay.
Worked for IBM for 15 years. Went and worked in the IBM Business Partner Channel for 15 years, and I went back to IBM about 3 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I am now the client exec on our third largest business partner. So that's what I do for a living.
That's great. So you go downtown every day, or?
Twice a week.
Twice a
yeah,
week.
the other 3 days a week I'm here in the suburbs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very nice.
That's great. So why are you interested in this position? And from your perspective, you touched on it a little bit, having a history as a trustee for Mundelein, but
Right.
what qualifies you for trustee for Libertyville?
That's a great question. I've been in Libertyville long enough to understand Libertyville rather than just a newcomer, right?
Sure.
So I have some history in Libertyville, so I do understand the town. I have been involved in several different organizations. The trustee experience that I have was fairly short, I'll say, but I think it takes a while for you to really understand what your role is once you get into the trustee position.
Okay.
So I think, I kind of have a little bit of a head start on that. Having come from, I've worked in companies as large as, IBM to as small as a 2-person startup. So I have, and everything in between. So vast experience on size of companies, have had experience with a lot of volunteer organizations. So I think that I'm fairly well-rounded.
Okay.
And I think that's what really gives me the, benefit of, some kind of competitive advantage.
Great, great. Well, what would you say are the strengths of the village as you see it from a resident perspective? And then also, what are some of the opportunities? What are some of the weaknesses or challenges that you might recognize with the board, if there are any?
With the board, I don't know that I think there are a lot of weaknesses. I really don't. I think there's a fair amount of people that have been on for a while, people that have not been on for very long. That's something you kind of look at is, has everybody been on for 20 years? Because,
right.
Maybe you want to shake that up a little bit. We don't have that. I think we probably could use some youth on the board, which wouldn't be me, so that's not, great for me to throw that in there, but I just really think it's true. I think, Bethany has an advantage there, and she should. I think it's good, and that we don't want just like any young person on the board, but, she's a young person who is involved and has young children, and I think that sort of balance would be a good, addition to the board. No offense to all the people on the board, because I think we're all roughly the same age.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the one thing that kind of coats us with one brush maybe is the age of the board.
Yeah, okay.
It's very strong in terms of competency. I spent the day a couple of Saturdays ago was the budget review.
Okay.
Which, boy, if you ever really want to know what's going on in a village, go sit for one day at that village, budget review, and you find out everything that's going on. Not just where the money's going, but why it's going there, and why it's not going in different places, and where it went before, and where they think it's going to go in the future. So, in terms of strength, the board, in my opinion, is tremendously fortunate to have an extremely strong staff working on the board. The staff is so impressive. I mean, the budget is this thick. I went through it cover to cover trying to find something I could add, somewhere I could add some value. Have you tried this? Did you think about this? They are really, really, really good.
Yeah.
They're very good at what they do.
That's great to hear.
And it just makes the board's job very much easier.
Okay, okay. That's great. Generally speaking, what issues should the residents, I'm a father of 3, my wife and I are raising our family, we're busy at work, raising the kids. Nothing really seems to be out of whack with Libertyville, fortunately.
Yeah.
Due to, I think, what you pointed out, there's some good people running the operation, have been. The downtown is thriving now. So I look at it and I think, what should I be thinking about as a resident? What should I be plugged into more? Can you help educate me a little bit and the audience on what are some things that we should be framing up? I mean, what's a reason to compel us to go out there and vote?
I think the only challenge that I really see on the horizon is if Governor Rauner takes back a lot of money, right?
Okay.
So he's talked about, unfunded mandates. He wants to pull those off the table, which is great because putting in mandates and then causing us all to pay for them is, very difficult. but he's trying to write the state. And in order to write the state, he's got to take a lot of money from somewhere, right? He's not going to be able to raise taxes very much. The money's got to come from somewhere. So it's possible that Libertyville will lose money that's right now given to us by the state. And so the services are still going to need to be paid for. And that's one of the challenges. People say, well, I don't really understand. I don't understand what's going on. You know, our real estate taxes or our real estate values are dropping. Why aren't my taxes dropping? Right? That's one of the first questions everybody wants to know. Well, because you still need as many police officers. You still need as many people to plow the streets. Those things don't go away, even though your real estate value has
Those
dropped.
costs actually go up over time.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, again, the staff has done a phenomenal job. When we had the last, kind of dip in, money, and I want to say 2007, 2008, 9 time frame, they did a great job of, putting up some defenses so that we wouldn't get hurt very badly. And I think they've done a great job of looking at every corner of where can we, outsource something, or where can we, use an intern for something, where can we save money. I think they've done a great job with that. Okay. But as I look down the road, I'm concerned about how Governor Rauner fixing the problems with the state will affect the Libertyville residents. Other than that, I'm not seeing anything.
And so what's the board's, let's assume that Rauner does that.
Yeah.
The board does what? What are they talking about?
They go back to the staff and say, what else can we do? What other levers do we have? Now, they do have some, I'm not aware of the correct term for this, but they do have some money set aside, sort of like a rainy day fund, right?
Okay.
I don't want to call it a slush fund because it sure as heck isn't that.
Right.
But it's sort of a rainy day fund. When the rainy day comes and we know it's coming, here are the levers we know we can pull or we can push to be able to, weather the storm again. And that's what I really think is important. They're very good at it, but we all need to understand that it's still coming, and I believe that we're in very good hands.
That's great. That's great. So how can people get a hold of you? Do you have a website? Are you on Facebook?
I'm on Facebook.
Tell us a little bit about how to find out more information about Angela.
Sure. So. I am on Facebook.
Okay.
And I do have a Facebook page for April 7th write-in candidate. So if people find me on Facebook, we'll certainly invite them to the April 7th write-in candidate page. Okay. And on that page, I'm, taking screenshots and information from the clerk's office to tell people how to do write-in candidates. Mail-in voting is right now, so people can start mailing in their votes. March 13th is when that started.
Okay.
Early voting starts in another week, I believe, and that'll be on my website and tell you how to do that.
Okay.
And then also April 7th. Of course, everybody will be aware that April 7th is Election Day, by being connected to all of us. So.
Right, great. Well, thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to learn a little bit more about you and your background. And thanks for running for office. And it's great to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's a wrap.